If you're currently going through a divorce process or separation process and you're wondering what happens during holiday season, well, today's episode is great for you. We're going to be talking about what happens with your legal matters, with court or out of court, but also living under one roof during this whole process, facing loneliness and isolation, and also co-parenting challenges during the holidays, and hopefully a little bit of moving forward and hope. Welcome, Mum.
Hello, Laura. Hi, everyone.
It is kind of a classic thing, I think, that happens with divorce where these horrible things are happening. Your world's turning upside down. You're probably moving house. You're dealing with not seeing the kids or seeing the kids, or you don't know who's paying the mortgage. But then you look outside your window and everybody else is having a merry old time. And the world keeps going. And your world is horrid. And it's hard to imagine going through the Christmas holiday season, New Year's, etc., dealing with this nightmare. So today we're going to try and help you maybe navigate it a little bit, aren't we, Mum? And
hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom.
Mum, can you just give me a little basic rundown for anybody who has a lawyer or just about that process? What happens between clients and lawyers during the Christmas holiday period?
Well, basically, the lawyers close down and you can't contact them. Basically, that's usually what happens. The courts themselves have restricted opening dates. So everything just winds down. And it can feel very lonely.
Well, it kind of, I guess, makes you feel like this is kind of the time when all the crazy can happen. Yeah. And there is a higher chance of DV. And if anyone is facing that, please call 1-800-RESPECT or call Lifeline on 13 11 14. But there is this possibility of all this extra stuff going on with kids' handovers, Christmas, you name it, all the stuff. So, Mum, when it comes to court, we thought we'd just quickly touch on this. So obviously the big courts are closed on Christmas Day, Boxing Day and New Year's, and they have a skeleton crew around Christmas till the 7th of January. Some of the smaller courts are just closed from Christmas until the 7th of January.
And it includes West Australia Court, if anyone's going, but what about WA? They'll be, their main court will be open on the same days that the other courts.
And then if you desperately need an urgent application, then you can lodge one by calling 1300-352-000. So that is including Perth as well, I believe.
Yes. And it might not be that you can lodge anything or whatever, but if you need the court, ring that number. Someone there will guide you to what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And so there might be judges. There'll be judges on standby, but there'll be fewer than normal on standby. And because they're looking after the whole of Australia, only the really urgent stuff will make it through to the judge.
Okay. Now, not everybody will be caught yet that's listening today. There may be some people who are going into mediation soon. And there are some people who haven't even done any of that and they're just separated under one roof, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Recently, we reached out to people through our email list. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to our email list on thedivorcecourse.com. And we asked them, what challenges are you facing or what tips can you share with other people that may help them get through this time of holiday season? And one person wrote that their ex started sending financial information requests out of the blue right during the holiday season. And Mum, you've heard of these stories and horror stories where nasty people do this kind of stuff around Christmas.
I have, Laura. I have. It's not uncommon for someone to get all of their documents ready and lob them on you for the Christmas break when you don't have support. Over the years, I've had people who were served on their birthdays or who were served on Valentine's Day, all of these things. If you're in an abusive situation or if you had been, or if your ex is really cranky with you, this is a good time, they think, to just muck you up and mess with your head. So it's really hard for people going through Christmas I get it.
What can they do, Mum, to help protect themselves from that kind of nasty? I mean, what expect it to happen if they're that kind of person, or
So like we do with our personality types and in the course, I think the best thing to do is, if that's the kind of thing that your ex would do, expect it. Okay, have a plan for if you do receive it. Maybe even write a little email in advance saying, thank you for that inquiry. Thank you for that. I'll get on to it straight after Christmas or on the 26th. So have a response ready and then try and put it out of your mind. But if you've got court-ordered deadlines, then the court is going to insist on you keeping your timetables. So you may have to, when you lock yourself in the room and go, shh, don't come in, people think you're writing presents. It may be, unfortunately, that you're in there doing your legal stuff because the court doesn't stop for just because there was a Christmas break. I reckon it gets busier straight after Christmas.
So basically, Mum, there will be people that have got mediation coming up and disclosure due. And we have had some of our members say they've got court appearances in the second week of January and mediations like 3 days before Christmas. So it is going to be happening and you are just going to have to brace yourself. But I think one of the things that really helped me was I was able to remind myself that this is temporary. And I know that sounds so flippant, but you're not going to be dealing with this every single Christmas. You're just going to be dealing with these legal matters maybe this Christmas only. So I guess that's something that can help.
I think so. And I think too, if you want to process, you've got to go through it, okay? You've got to get through it to get to the other side. And sometimes you can comfort yourself, as I did, thinking at least it's progressing, because it could be very frustrating to be marking time for a couple of weeks. So if you can comfort yourself with that as well.
Yeah. So basically, when it comes to the legal side of things, guys, find out when your lawyer shuts down. Find out if you've got any deadlines or things that need to be done very close to opening time, and make sure you talk to your lawyer or you're working on it over the Christmas period. If you get a letter from your ex that's not particularly court related, you can always say, hey, thanks for that. I've received it. I'll get back to you on the 26th of December or whatever time, so that you can just then put it out of your mind and continue on with your Christmas period or your holiday period. And then also remembering those court close times and that urgent phone call time. And there are some people also who might not even got to this mediation phase and they're living under the same roof. And we sent this message out to everyone in the email, and we got some pretty sad but also hopeful emails from some people. And it is hard if you're with your ex at the holiday period under the same roof. I'm just going to call her M, but she said, this is my third Christmas living under one roof with my hostile ex and her child. She said that perhaps pretending that your ex is a grouchy roommate and focus on your child and spend the rest of the day out of the house is one of her suggestions. Another person wrote in and said that they're separated under one roof and her ex loves to play games and demands plans to be changed at the last minute on Christmas Day, and it's exhausting. So we're going to talk a little bit about co-parenting and handovers in a minute. But Mum, what can people do, or what have you seen happen when people are living under the same roof with their ex?
Well, it's a time when things can flare up unexpectedly. It's a time sometimes when people think they're going to be able to live under one roof and they're going on all right, and then it blows up over Christmas. So just be ready for that if you're living under one roof over Christmas. And like I said, all emotions are heightened. Everything feels harder. And I think too, they talk about in some of the psychology articles I've read about it, that the first Christmas, the first Easter, the first Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthday is hardest when you're separated. But I don't think it starts until you're actually away from under one roof. I think every day is just as hard. So to that lady, Em, I really feel for you having 3 years in a row under one roof. And I think if it was my daughter, I'd like to see that you don't spend a fourth one there. So maybe that's something to look at. I think, this separated under one roof phenomenon, Laura, I wouldn't have seen more than 10 cases in my 30-year career. And then the last 5 years of my career, we've had so many under one roof because rentals aren't available. And so it's a bit of an unexplored area.
So we've got a really good episode called The Do's and Don'ts of Being Separated Under One Roof. And whilst this isn't Christmas or holiday themed, it is really helpful as a way to navigate it. And I'm going to put this here and a warning to anybody who may get triggered by this, but the rates of domestic violence increase dramatically during holiday season. So if you think that your ex is slightly dangerous, if you've been warned by someone before, it is a really good idea to have a safety plan in place. You can call 1-800-RESPECT. They will help you find a space in your area and they can help you create a safety plan. So if you had nowhere else to go and something does arise during Christmas or during New Year's, you can then enact that safety plan and be safe. And I think that's a really important message to anyone who's listening today, because it is quite dangerous at the Christmas period, at the New Year's period, if there's lots of drinking involved, particularly.
And the good news, though, for that is that the police are around probably in greater numbers over that period of time. So if it's a family violence issue, the police will still be there. They have ways of getting in touch with magistrates, even if the courts are closed in each state. And so remember, they are there. I think if it's hard for you, and it will be, it's also hard for the other person. And if they're not very good at processing their feelings, you may find that your plan of maybe to be under one roof and then ultimately selling, and then it all falls apart and you just got to get out. And so you do that if you need to. If there's kids, there's a bit of a circuit breaker because the parents can sit either side in the lounge room and the kids will be opening the presents and it's okay. If there aren't any kids, I would suggest going home to your parents or going somewhere else for Christmas, because that would be just so hard under one roof.
And you do say it a lot, and everybody wants to have their divorce happen in the easiest and best way possible. And a lot of people hold off on breaking up with their ex until after Christmas.
Yeah.
Because the lawyers all get a big influx in January. But you always warn people, Mum, that you may be planning to do it, but it may just happen out of the blue. There may be something, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it could be the smallest thing, most insignificant thing, but that's it, you're done. And these things happen at these kind of times. So make sure, like you said, you've got a plan, a backup plan. Can you go and stay at Mum's? Can you stay at Dad's? Can you go and stay at a friend's house, etc.?
Yeah. I think that's a good strategy. If you can avoid being under one roof for those particular days, it might be helpful. You will know in yourself. And like you said, Laura, if someone's warned you about it. But it doesn't mean you can't have Christmas with your work colleagues, your family's Christmas. It's just one little sort of issue at the heart of things that you're a bit down about, I guess.
We're going to get into that in another moment. But let's talk about then the co-parenting challenges during the holidays. So we've got people who are co-parenting, but they're separated under one roof. We've got people who wrote in who aren't seeing their children this year for Christmas. And we've got people who have got their kids all the time because their ex has just completely disappeared. So there's a whole smattering of different scenarios that can be happening. And I think that the sharing of custody and dealing with the emotional part of this holiday season being completely different to any other holiday you've ever had is a huge thing. And you may not think about it until it happens, but it is a good idea to prep. So I'm just going to read some examples that we've got from the emails that were sent through. So I'm just going to call this person Jay. She said, "It was my first Christmas without the kids. It's only half a day, but I'm the one who does all the traditions. And it seems so unfair that he's checked out all year, but all of a sudden wants to be involved for Christmas Day." And I hear that a lot from people going, this is ridiculous. Like they want nothing to do with the kids all year round. They just want the kids on Christmas Day. What do you say to that, Mum?
Well, I always say that I've never met a kid who would object to a second Christmas. And when you've got kids, Christmas is when you say it is. So if it's particularly important for you that the kids open their presents at your place, for instance, well, do it before Christmas. Just pronounce a day Christmas Day and you still get all of that joy and all of those feelings. Or after they come home if it's only half a day. Sometimes, though, they're tired and maybe you can make Boxing Day another day. But yes, I think shield the kids from how you actually feel. And we all need to remember it's just a date. It's not, the kids don't know what actual date it is. If you ask most little kids today, what's the date? They wouldn't have a clue. So if you tell them 2 Christmases, they'll be over the moon.
Yeah. And then there's the whole handover thing, Mum, because some parents, they do handover on Christmas Day or Boxing Day or Christmas Eve. And we've done a great episode called Handover Hell. And that would be a great episode for you to listen to if that's you. And we've done a previous Christmas episode where we've touched on this sort of stuff before. But what kind of things crop up, Mum, that usually get panicked phone calls from clients in the old days when it comes to this Christmas handover stuff?
Yeah, so it's tricky because a lot of court orders now, or lots of plans that people have now involve pick up from school, drop off to school, so that there's no kind of interaction. But on Christmas Day, that's not an option. And what happens is, although I've hardly ever had a client who admits it to me, but I think people like to have some champagne and, a few drinks on Christmas Day. So if there's a changeover in the middle of the day, they don't want to be the person that has to take the child to that place. So there's all these negotiations and you'll go, what's the difference between afternoon and morning? And then I realised what it was. So if your ex is bailing up on some things, try and go think about what their actual interest is. Is it that they want to open the presents particularly, or is it that they just don't want to have to drive? And the first question the judges ask when you go to court over Christmas handover things is what usually happens. And I always say to my clients, what is it your family? Does your family do like Christmas Day, or is it Christmas Eve, or is Boxing Day? When does your family all get together? And you can usually run along the same lines that you always had, except that your ex won't be with you at that time. So it's just compromise and sorting things out, but do it early so it doesn't come as a big surprise on the day. Try and get it in writing from your ex and try to shield the kids.
And it is a good opportunity. I know it sucks if it's your first time and you're trying to navigate it, but if you haven't got orders yet, or if you haven't even got a parenting plan yet, you can kind of test out what works and what doesn't. You can say, all right, well, that was a disaster. Thank goodness we don't have that locked in forever as a court order. So kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. Now, Mum, I'm again going to unfortunately talk those listening today that have DV, protection orders, etc., where there's been family violence and their partner has to maybe stay a certain distance, etc. There are so many of these people who write to us or speak to us and they feel so much guilt about their children not spending time with that other person on Christmas Day. Now, if there's no court order saying they have to spend time on Christmas Day, what kind of things do you want to say to remind these people listening today about the situation in general?
I think it's important to remember that the kids will just remember the joy of Christmas mostly. If you're feeling guilty for your children, I wouldn't bother feeling guilty with the children. They can have lots of presents. But ask yourself, are you thinking in terms of it's not fair on my ex? Are you thinking about like each of you having a proper share rather than child focus? But I can tell you that kids don't like to see their parents with tension interacting in changeovers. There was a video that we used to study. I hope it's on YouTube now. And it was when I became an independent children's lawyer, and it interviewed kids when their parents fought, and it showed pictures of them, even if they don't actually fight, but it's like clipped tones and slammed doors and perfunctory sort of greetings. The children know it. So it's better not to muddle up their day. There are a lot of judges who will never order a split Christmas Day, but they will alternate Christmases year to year. And what they'll do is try to make sure each person has some time with the child over those 3 days, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. Oddly enough, I don't get any trouble with January the 1st. Everyone's very happy for the children to go to the other parent the night before.
What about in extreme cases, Mum, when maybe they've left their partner the bravery to stand up and leave? And these people, these are the really dangerous people. And they're manipulative and controlling as well. And they're like, I want to see my child. And they're sending messages when they shouldn't be. What do you say to those people?
Turn your phone off, I think. Just think about the best interests of the children. And if there's no orders, think about this. If you had to leave because of family violence, why would you put your child at risk and at that greater risk over the Christmas break, when there might be other opportunities for the child? I don't think you become an apologist for your ex, but you don't explain too much either. Why aren't I seeing mummy this weekend? Or why aren't I seeing daddy for Christmas? Oh, well, we've got all these plans and we'll have a great Christmas here. And then you can have that Christmas next week or next year. You can maybe have Christmas there. Kind of just take it. The kids are easily distracted. Here, have a lolly. Here, have a present. Oh, look at the lights. Just keep it light and happy and do your crying in the shower.
And you've got contact centres as an option as well. I don't know how likely you'll be able to get in now, but you do have that option. If you feel like it's not a good idea to have your kids around that person and you don't have court orders, see if you can get them into a contact centre, or maybe their grandparents can be with the other parent when they see the children. So just think about the child's safety as well as your own. And again, please call 1-800-RESPECT or 13 11 14 if any of this has upset you. So I thought I'd just touch on that, Mum, because I do know that whole Christmas, New Year's, end of year thing, it is a way that these very manipulative people try to claw back in or get back together with you or get back to, just get their little weasel back in there. So just be aware of it.
Yeah, they're trying to recover their power. And if you're a good person, of course you will feel bad, because you know how you would feel if you didn't have time with your children. But a manipulative and controlling person who hasn't shown interest in the kids before, they are not languishing at Christmas because they haven't got their kids. They just want to use it as an excuse for you most of the time. And like I said, the kids will accept direction and they'll accept from you that this isn't mum's Christmas or dad's Christmas. This is our Christmas now. You can have another one later on.
I think another thing to remember is everything you do, if you do end up in court, will be looked at. So if you're just being a meanie pants and not letting see the kids, that can very much bite you in the butt if you go to court. So be mindful of everything that you're doing. Go and speak to a lawyer. Ask them what you should be doing. But again, if you've got no court orders, there's no hard or fast rules there. Mum, another thing that people really struggle with is traditions. It doesn't matter what you are celebrating or whether you just every holiday in December you go to the beach or whatever. So we did get some people writing in about that, and there is some adjustments that need to be made. And I think creating new traditions is a really good way of cementing a positive future. So we got an email from Elle, and she said the angel we had was something my ex and I had picked out together. And the idea of putting up the tree with it was just too hard because apparently her ex just disappeared. We picked out a new tree, new decorations, and a new topper. And now they're excited for Christmas again. And her plan is to get a new decoration every year to put on the tree. So she's gone and flipped it and gone, okay, I don't want to do those old ones anymore. I don't want that old tradition as a reminder. Let's start a new one. And I think that's a lovely idea.
Yeah, I think so too. I think sometimes what you think of as tradition may be a pattern that you've had and the things that you do. But a tradition is something that carries on into the future. So if those things are in the past, start something new. I don't know if you remember when you were a kid, Laura, we never had the same thing on the top of our tree every year. We had a Christmas yak, we had a Santa hat, we'd put a squirrel, anything we could think of, because teenage kids think that's hilarious.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
You did.
So you can start new traditions, particularly if the kids have grown up. There may be different things. And, the elf on the shelf thing, causes so much stress and anxiety for everyone. And we have talked about this in previous episodes. I will put the links in there. If you have to get a new elf, I do remember my kids going, what's wrong with the elf's face? Why does the elf look different? And I was like, maybe he got a face lift because they changed. I had to go buy another one and they changed its face. And I was like, oh, can't win. But, it's funny now and they look back and they laugh. And we have 2 of them now and we just laugh about it.
You didn't do Elf on a Shelf again this year, did you?
I still do it for me.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. But
teenagers, there you go, even teenagers.
Yes. And we got this email from Dee, and she said the kids would each choose a decoration for the tree, kind of like what Elle had done. But when her ex left the house, he took all the special decorations and left the crappy ones. And she said it really stung, but she's working on building something new with her boys. So that is, again, there's going to be a little mean. And I think there's a lot of surprises for people because, all that kind of stuff just gets put in a box, put in the cupboard or whatever. And then you pull it out and someone's going to end up with the tree. Someone's going to end up without the tree. So prepare yourself to be stung by these kind of behaviors if you've got a manipulative controlling. And then on the other side of that, prepare yourself for the other types, like the avoidant, who's just going to try and pretend that you haven't got separated and everything's still fine. And I think that would be really hard under one roof. I know we didn't talk about it at the time, but that would be hard.
And it'd be really hard with the kids as well. But a few ground rules, maybe, for you and your ex to work out about who's going to do what and when is that person going to go and see his family or her family and when are you going to see your family. Yeah. I think when you say about the old decorations and things, I know that you can have lovely decorations. You can buy such beautiful ones. And it's really painful if you're collecting sets of things or if it's your travel mementos or whatever. But think about it. You can get more relevant ones. You can get better ones. If you're a mum with girls, everything can be blue and pink if you like. It's a chance for a refresh. We renovate our houses. Every Christmas we drag out the old tired decorations. So maybe it's time for a refresh.
And I have seen on Pinterest this really great idea, which I did this year, where I just bought a whole bunch of rolls of ribbon, which was super cheap from the $2 shop. And then I put bows all over the tree and it looks gorgeous. So
you can send me a photo yet.
You don't even need decorations. You can just do bows. So I guess what we're trying to say is, rethink it, reevaluate it. But Mum, I wrote about it in this email to everyone, that deep pit of emptiness that people feel. It's like a punch in the gut. So I am obviously watching the video. I've got Christmas decorations all around my office, let alone all around my house. And Christmas means so much to me. And I used to count how many years of Christmas I had till the kids grow up, how many years I can make the magic for them. And I remember the time that I did not have the children, and it was horrific for me. And I think even though I was with people that loved me and I had my family around me, it just wasn't the same. And it felt isolating and lonely. So there is going to be that for some people. And T wrote in and said, at 65, I have little money and no family nearby. I moved to a farm thinking my husband would be with me, but I'm spending Christmas alone. E wrote, it's our second Christmas apart, but I still feel the sadness and sense of isolation every time I hear Christmas tunes. And Anonymous wrote, it's just another day. I'll take it one at a time. So there's a lot of people dealing with it. What kind of things do you see as a lawyer that people put in place to help them get through that, particularly if they've got kids?
Sometimes if you're making orders about who spends time with the children, maybe a person needs enough time without the kids to get down to their relatives wherever they are, or they volunteer with the salvos for the day or something like that. I mean, legally.
What kind of things can you put in your orders?
Yeah, you can put in like a fixed time when the kids are to ring their other parent, and you can have it that it's by Zoom or FaceTime, something like that. When the kids go back to the other side, and I think you did this well, Laura, you don't show that sadness.
No.
You let them go freely so they can enjoy themselves. And you need to tell your kids you're having a great time.
Yes.
Oh, no, it's all right. No, I've made myself this and I'm having that. And and you know how much I love Bargain Hunt. I'm just watching Bargain Hunt all day.
Yes.
Something like that. So you don't put that on the kids. But
Totally.
it's so hard. And I didn't even realize how hard it was for you, but it was hard for me.
It was horrid. And I'm a planner.
Yeah.
And the one thing that helped more than anything, and if anyone is listening and is thinking, especially T, who said that they're going to be alone, and E, that feels this isolation, plan. So like you just said before, Mum, you can distract a kid with a lollipop and a Christmas light. If you're a Christmas person, don't not do Christmas. Do adult Christmas, because I discovered adult Christmas is pretty fun. It's a whole new ball game. If you don't have kids, adults Christmas is great. And do stuff that you really can't do when you have kids. Book a cruise or, go to the zoo. I don't know. Nightclub Christmas, who knows?
I know that a house feels different when the kids aren't in the house. I remember that. And so I've always told my clients, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Go to a fancy hotel and have some lunch with like-minded people.
Yeah.
Anything. Just don't be there.
So
and plan for yourself.
Yeah. Create an itinerary for yourself so that there is not a single moment where you are alone or you are not doing something that you love. So write a list of things that you love doing and then plan when you're going to do them and with who. Reach out to people. You are not the only person who could potentially be alone on Christmas Day. There are heaps of people. So look at community groups. Go and see if you can volunteer on Christmas Day.
That's a good idea. And if you've got nieces and nephews or sisters, just try to work around it. But Christmas means different things to different people. To some, it's a big dinner. To others, it's the tree and Christmas carols, whatever. Just try and input that into your day. But try not to mope. It's really unfair. And if it really is getting to you, then maybe you binge watch something on TV and wait for the next day.
Or call Lifeline 13, 11, 14 and just ask for help. But I think planning and reaching out to family and friends and I know for a fact that you will at least know one other person who has just been separated or has been through it. Ask them what they did. Get that support that you need. Now, and we'll also go to see a psychologist. Now, I don't want to leave it on depression, sadness. So I did want to talk about moving forward. Yep. And we did get small victories and rebuilding lives and seeing glimmers of hope amongst all of this from some of our letters that we received. So we got an email from a lady who I'm just going to call Elle. And she said, we started new traditions. Now my kids are excited. We don't worry about the other parent being absent anymore, which is great. D said, there's much to grieve, but I see new growth and the shoots are coming up already. And Jay said, this has been the hardest year of my life, but I'm proud of myself for getting this far and I'm still in one piece.
That's great. And you can find difficulties if you're expecting cooperation from your partner to maintain traditions, maybe if they're going to be in the other place for the evening and they normally get this, that gives the other person the power to impact on your Christmas and the kids' Christmas. So I think the idea of having your celebrations and your own fun things for the kids and for yourself, whenever that may be, even if it's the day before Christmas or a week before, that'll get you through. And the kids will remember it.
And I think, to be completely fair, Mum, I don't necessarily remember each individual year of Christmas. I really don't when I was a kid. I just remember Christmas as a kid in a nutshell. And so if you aren't in the house you used to be in, I don't think the kids are going to care. If you're not with your partner that you were with, the kids will get used to it. There are so many kids who have two families, who have two Christmases, who have two New Years, you name it. I think the kids really handle it quite well. It's handling it yourself that's going to be the most important thing for you and focusing on that so that you are level-headed for the kids. And if you don't have kids, it's also still super important because if you've got a manipulative and controlling type, they're going to know that you're the most vulnerable person at that moment. So that's when they're going to do and say horrible things. So you need to put on, what do you call it, Mama? What, solid front? No? What do you call
A
it?
brave front?
A brave front.
Yes.
And you don't have to tell them what you're doing. It's none of their business.
Yeah.
But you put on a brave front, and don't you let them for a minute think that they can start picking at you or attacking you over Christmas. You put up those boundaries. We'll put an episode link for healthy boundaries, the 10 boundaries you should set up. If you've got an avoidant and you're going through this holiday period, Mum, what do you reckon?
It's harder, isn't it? I think you need to be suggesting to the avoidant. I was thinking maybe we have Christmas Eve. I have Christmas Eve with the kids. You have Christmas morning feast or whatever. Just put some proposals over there. Think of things that your avoidant person will probably agree with and that are good for the kids. And then just be that more proactive person. If you try to do that with a high conflict person, you're going to get it's back in your face because they will want to do what they want to do, which is fine, and argue the toss on everything. For Christmas Day, maybe the best thing for you to do is get whatever you can sorted and then keep your own plans flexible to protect the kids from what the other person's going to do. I think it's particularly a vicious thing to be texting your ex on Christmas Day. I mean, that's just nasty. And if you get all maudlin and think maybe you should reconcile or you'll step away from the mobile phone, don't post anything, don't read anything, just give it a break. Give it a break.
And I think until you've got court orders, if you've got a high conflict or manipulative controlling, they know that this time is going to be the best time to play with you and your emotions and try and change times. Like somebody said that in that letter that their ex always does it, changes Christmas plans day on the day. Be prepared for it, expect it. But know that once you've locked in that parenting order, that will be a thing of the past. So it's temporary. And if you are amicable, that's fantastic. It's still going to be hard though, because you're still navigating a whole new holiday and it is going to be different. There's going to be grieving. But if you can bring yourself and drag yourself through it with planning and self-care and help from family and friends, you will get through this and you will come out the other side. And in saying that, there'll be people that are absolutely loving having their first Christmas without a horrible person that they've obviously left on purpose. So there will be people who are listening to this going, I don't need to worry about any of this because I'm so glad I've left them.
I think it's important to remember if you've got kids, you're grieving no matter how much you're cross or angry with the other person. Your grieving is a different one to theirs because you will probably never have Christmas with your ex again as an intact family with the children, and that will tear your heart out. But to the kids, it just means that one of you isn't there for their first Christmas and the second one isn't there for the Christmas that happens 24 hours later. And I don't think it's going to matter a hill of beans because they're still seeing both of you for Christmas, just not in the same room. And frankly, a lot of kids pick up on tension. They may be quietly relieved.
Yep. And it's just a day because technically speaking, we celebrate it in Australia and then the next day America celebrates it. So it is just a day. You can just do it on a different time zone. And regardless of all of that, as long as you're taking care of your mental health and check with your lawyer if you need to be doing anything before everything shuts up. Think about your what ifs, which is a really good one. What if this happens? What if this happens? And ask your lawyer about it.
Have your plans.
Yeah. And then have your plans. Like you always say, Mum, you are less stress if you've got, okay, if they say yes, I'm going to do this. If they say no, I'm going to do this. Have it all prepared, have it all planned out, and ask your what ifs from your lawyer. Have your plan in place, try and be flexible, and definitely have something itinerarized for you so that you will also be okay.
And if your ex makes a really big mistake and doesn't return the kids when they're supposed to or whatever, bear in mind that they will get their comeuppance in the new year. And the court does not take kindly to people who play up basically over the Christmas break. But that's very short-sighted of anyone. So you'll be fine and you'll go forward and your old Christmases, if you're seriously looking back, may have not been as wonderful as you thought. You may have been putting up with things for a long time. You don't have to put up with things anymore.
That's so true.
Yeah.
All right, Marv. Well, thank you so much for this episode. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. We had some other people. We've had people write in saying some really wonderful things about the podcast, so we really appreciate it. And I know this one is a little wishy-washy, but everyone's going to go through it. I'm going to put the links to the other Christmas episodes and holiday episodes in the show notes, as well as handover and a couple of other things. But we wish you all the best, and we will do another episode next week.
Yes, for sure. And everyone, just remember, if you're struggling for money this Christmas, I think a child remembers the time they spend with you more than the fancy gifts. And you can give them time and attention, and that will be what they remember going forward. Happy Christmas, everybody. Be strong. Yeah. You'll be fine.
Thanks, Mum, for your time, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, Laura.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording